Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel, Sassy Gem's YouTube channel, and welcome back to our vlogs. We are doing a little series of vlogs on freelancing, mostly as it pertains to television, because we work in television. And we've been doing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today's video is the ugly. So today's video is about freelancing, particularly television freelancing, and like the ugly. I'm not gonna talk about loads. I don't think like we are in a really horrible, I don't know, like it could be worse than it. Like I think retail has some dark moments, you know. I do think it does. I really do think it does. But TV also has its moments. And a lot of them I feel like have been really clear of recent, and these discussions are like more on like people's consciousness, so like I think it's important that we talk about it too. We can't just avoid it, especially as two black women. So please read Jen's blog, and then I'll read mine, and then obviously watch this. So after you finish watching this, click on the link below and do Jen's blog. You get me? Right, so the first thing I want to talk about is mental health. What is that? Mental health. So yeah, our industry is a bit okay. In the last year or two, we've had a few instances where it's like quite, I don't want to like accuse anyone of anything in it, but like we've had a couple like really dreadful losses. How do I say this? We had a few when like I started a job quite soon after that man committed suicide after he featured an episode of Jeremy Kyle, and like everything we did, it was like, you know, in light of Jeremy Kyle. It was like, in light of people's like just being good human beings, maybe just I don't know about you, man, but just being good human beings. How about not in light of someone dying, we can just give a fuck? Has that ever occurred to anyone? Like, why did that just occur in 2019 anyway? Yeah, so there was a lot of concern of like people's mental health, and I worked on a show where they were like, if anything, if you're ever feeling anything, you can always call our counsellor whenever you want. We can book an appointment for you. And like literally every few weeks you get a little email like, you know, if you're ever feeling too stressed, you can always book an appointment. And it was like, the thing that's stressing me out is you. Now how do I go and tell them that? You make me feel like shit. Can I tell them that? And it's like, am I allowed to use a counsellor that work has provided me with to complain about work? It's a real double entendre. But like literally most companies I've worked in since, like there's been, not most, okay, one, there's been like counsellors available, like if you want to talk to them. And I think that's a new thing. TV Mindset also last year did a massive survey of freelance workers and basically asked us how our mental health is, and the answer was shite. The answer was that our mental health is down the toilet and everyone's really struggling. We're in a really sensitive situation. And in like recent years, there's like people, I don't know, people have like gone through things, and like I've had conversations with people where they tell me they've gone through things, and like, and the way our industry is doesn't like help that. So number one point, obviously we're freelancers. We are essentially rented out to work for a period of time, and then you're pushed back out and you're not sure when you'll be hired again. That is horrible. Like there's like levels to it, innit? But like sometimes it feels horrible. Imagine like feeling really like anxious or sad or like whatever, and you have to apply for work, and like you're applying for work and then like no one's replying to you, or like the only people replying to you are saying no, or you have an interview and you think you did really well, you dragged yourself out of bed, you washed your face, you bought makeup on it, you did your hair, you went to work, you smiled even if you ain't feeling up to it, and then they said fuck off. Like it is really like there's so many, that like constant rejection can have quite a profound effect on you. I remember when I first started freelancing, my friend saying if I was like, she wasn't freelancing it, and she was just like, if I was you I'd feel so anxious all the time. And I was like, babe, you just have to ignore that. You think I don't feel anxiety? Yeah, you just have to like that's a set, like and I've written about it and like really felt it, like it can be like so difficult if you're having a bad time. And I've like had to say to myself, like, if I have a bad time on a job, for instance, like anything, like, or whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go and take a little break, I'm just gonna really enjoy my time off, like. But then you can't really do that when for that long, because you need to pay bills. So it's kind of like you don't really get the mental space. And because of like the way our jobs are, you could walk into your job and say, look, I've had a bad time recently, like when I wasn't working, I'm now back, obviously I'm fully capable of doing my job, but like realistically, they're not, I don't know, like, I don't know in it, but I don't think you're going to get like extra sympathy because you've had a hard time. Like, it just isn't, they don't have like the capacity for that, they don't have the space for that, they don't have the budget for that. They don't budget like someone's poor mental health into their schedule, like, into their like budget when they go to a channel. They don't, it's not something that people care about. It's like, oh, you're having a down day, like, who cares? No one cares. You sent a really manic email, like, no one's gonna be like, are you all right? Honestly, like, at all. I remember this so distinctively. I was I don't know what it was. It was like a weird virus thing in my tummy, but it was like months, like literally months. Like I could barely hold down food. It was really bad, but I was still going to work all the time, and I'd throw up. I would throw up at work. And they finally gave me, I went to doctors and they finally gave me like antibiotics for it. And I had a really dreadful reaction to antibiotics, but I went to work with my dreadful reaction to antibiotics. I went to the toilet like maybe 6 times, like back and forth all day. And not one person on my team was like, you're right. No one even, like, they have no idea what's going on. I might just have needed an Imodium, but no one said anything. And it was this like really weird, horrible like thing where you're just like, these people don't care about me. No one cares about me. Like, I go to work and I'm not like, you're not loved. It almost feels like sometimes you're like just there to do a job. And like, I'm still, it's been years, I'm still very resentful of that day of like no one asking me if I was okay. And I remember someone saying, oh no, they don't dislike you. No, they might like, no, you know, just because you, like, and I was like, look, I was sick and no one asked me if I was okay. Like, no one. And I've obviously like had other jobs since then, and people have been lovely and like, they're like, you're right, you think you should go home, yeah, but there are some situations where you're not treated like that, and there's no like, I know HR's there, but I don't know where they are. I don't know. You'll never really introduce them. You know, as conversations. It's just like, they're like, oh, like, the system isn't as obvious in these industries because you could start on a Wednesday and like the induction's once a month. Like, it's just really difficult, and you might not have time to go to induction. Listen, I've not been to my new company's induction. I don't know when that is, but I've got other things I need to be doing. I don't need to be on a Zoom watching some guy walk me through an office that I'm not going to go to. There is a lot of that, like, you're too busy to be part of an office that looks after you, and vice versa. They're too busy to look after you. There's too many people to deal with. So I think if you're not feeling a certain way, and that could be like mental or like physical, like level of illness, people might not look after you, and like you might not feel secure in that, and like that all plays a big part on like why our industry is a bit shit. And obviously you're not working. And the other thing, that was the freelance side of it, and this other thing is just the culture. And I don't know what it was like back in the day, but I reckon it was like very like, yeah, when you're an exec, when you're this, like, you're a man and you behave like this and you treat people like that. And there are some women who like broke through that barrier, also joined the industry and still behave like that. And the same thing's happening with like, they're bringing in young black people, they're working their way up, and then they have that same attitude. So when you go meet them, there's like no softness, no kindness, and they treat you like, okay, I understand like someone's in authority, but like you should be honoured by their presence, like to the point where you're in awe of them completely, and you don't like fuck respecting yourself. Just sit there and like whatever they say, whatever they do, jump and say how high. And like, I'm not really down for that. I don't really like it. I just don't understand why you treat people like that. Like, some people just genuinely like assholes. And I always say this, like, I don't know if it's the success or the money, but like people seem to lose themselves. Like, They just stop being like nice people. And like, I've heard far too many like, oh, that person's not really that nice to work with. How is that? Like, what? Why do you have that reputation and you're still getting paid? Like, oh yeah, they're really, really horrible. Yeah, they throw things at people. Yeah, why? What? And they own a company, they get commissions, they're making money. Like, no one ever says anything like, oh, they're director, or they're this person, or they're exec. Like, oh, I've heard, like, you shouldn't hear nasty rumors about people and they're still in this industry. But industry allows that. They allow that. They allow that constantly. You don't get blacklisted here, sorry, unless you're like junior. That's the only reason you get blacklisted. People up there, they do fucking awful things. You hear horrible things about people. They treat people like absolute shit, and they still get to be in it. And the younger people, the people coming up, the more junior people, they're the ones who are pushed out, and it's just really, really quite horrid. Yeah, and there's nothing positive I can say about that. It's a bit, actually, one positive thing I can say about that, like, I have ambitions to work really hard and get to a certain point in this industry, right? And I hope to God, whatever demon goes over the bodies, when you get accolades and when you get respect, I hope that doesn't make me stop being nice to people and being kind to people and thinking of people and speaking to people like they're human beings, you know? Yeah, I hope that doesn't become me. It's not in my nature anyway, but I can't believe that some people are the way they are all the time. I just can't be. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. But yeah, TV can be a bit ugly like that. Like, it can be like a big stream and like a bit like, and it's like lots of other stuff like that add to that, elements that make it worse, like the hours and whatever, and all of that like combining together can make for a really horrible environment. And I'm lucky to say I haven't always worked in really nasty environments and stuff, and I've had great people above me who have been really nice and will really be sweet to you and really like explain how things are to you, but at the same time you come across some real nastiness in this place, man. Anyway, and the other thing that this has come up obviously a lot this year, you know what, just like I said, you know, in light of Love Island, not Love Island, in light of Jeremy Kyle, I can say Jeremy Kyle's okay. Like I said, in light of Jeremy Kyle, we're really worried about people's mental health, and in light of racism coming to light again with George Floyd, we're really concerned about racism being a thing in our industry, and we're a zero tolerance company. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not a zero tolerance company. You're not a zero tolerance industry. You don't care. We've tried really hard to push diversity. Having black, ethnic, or minority ethnic. What the fuck is minority ethnic? What is that? What is minority ethnic? Who ticks that? Oh, I'm the minority ethnic, actually. Yeah, that's who I am. So, BAME. So, right, I've got to start from the beginning, don't I? So, our industry, I think traditionally was a bunch of like Oxford graduates who just got jobs in TV. Because they knew people and like everyone was kind of like, you know, a bit like raw and successful and whatever. And then like over the years, they started letting in like people who don't exactly fit that box, who just worked really hard to get into it and grafted and whatever. And then I think what happened is after that, it's like 3 generations. I think what happened was like, then they started to bring in like their kids and the new friends they made with their new money and new success. And they're like actually really, really middle class, but they don't think they are. But they're all white. They're all white. There were a couple of like black and brown people like scattered, dashed in there. Boo! And don't forget the minority ethnic, just dashed in there like a little bit. You might bump into them, like, oh, you're a bit, aren't you? Woo, go you. You might see them there and be like, claps for you. What's the word? What? Game change? Win? I don't know. Pave set? Oh. I'll find the word. And you're like, wow. But really, the industry was like really white and like quite posh for a really long time, like quite middle class or upper class. And now what they're trying to do is they're desperately trying to diversify that. And there's been, I know that I wasn't part of a scheme, but I got met at like a careers day, which was like pushing for diversity and whatever. And I met a talent manager who then put me on, blah, blah. But I remember like sitting in the waiting room or whatever, and everyone was like a little bit You know what I mean? So there was obviously a big push for that, and people who are from like the working class and whatever, people with disabilities or whatever, like, so I have worked with all of the list of above. I've worked with like loads and loads and loads of people, like legitimately not loads, like not like as much people who are just like white but I've worked with like a number of people because there has been a big push for that. But what they forgot to do really in our industry was like prepare those people who were there before, or prepare people for the influx of these people, right? So there's all this like, there's loads of little things going on with the racism in our industry. First of all, so we've got diversity quotas now, so like 20% of your staff has to be white, black or Asian or minority ethnic or have a disability or be really from a really poor background. So they're brought into the office, but they're not like, there's no like, here's someone who's been in this industry for like 10 years who can kind of tell you how it goes and like give you some advice at all. And there are some schemes though, I will say that, like I wasn't part of a scheme, but I do know like some schemes had like people do talks with them and stuff, but I don't know how real they were. But I felt like really othered when I walked into my industry, and I'm from London, so I'm from Melton Pot. I'm used to being around people of, it's not the first time ever in my life I've been the only black person in the room. I did a course and I was the only black person on the course, it was fine. Like I did a whole degree, I was the only black person, like it's actually fine. Like it wasn't that bad, but I didn't expect to like come back to London and get jobs in London and still be the only black person in the room and have to represent blackness and have to kind of hear ignorant comments from they're adults. They're all older than me. They're, oh, you're a baby. I was like 23, 24, like I was young, and like I'm hearing really ignorant shit coming out of people, or people treating you in a slightly different way, or you having to interview for something no one else has to interview yet. The white people just walks into that job. Okay, right, okay, didn't know we were interviewing for internships. Okay, not taking that personally, but definitely I think it came to as a real shock. And I remember like just thinking, oh, maybe that's just what people from outside of London are like, because there are lots of people from outside of London and they're all quite like well off, where like in my uni everyone was from, even the people from outside London were kind of like a bit like, some of them were a bit rough and ready, so it was different. Well, that's my only comparison, being around like a bunch of ignorant people. Like also they're 18, you're sometimes some of you are 40 with children, still managed to be ignorant. Wild. So there is like definitely a lot of problems still. Like most companies have never done unconscious bias training. That's not something that's discussed. And most of everyone, so black, white, whatever, you've probably heard people say things that are deeply inappropriate about I've heard like people do accidents. I've heard like people make fun of disabled people. I've heard people like make fun of, like basically call all Muslims terrorists. I've heard like so much like ignorance. You're just like, oh my god. And like you can't take so, like I think a lot of us people of colour in our industry felt very disheartened when everything was coming to light, because like our industry didn't take any responsibility for the racism that's quite glaringly obvious to us, and we all knew that we've probably witnessed something and not said anything, or not said anything loud enough and not caused enough of a fuss for it to be an issue. Or we know we have caused a fuss, and when we did cause a fuss, you were kind of told, do you want to leave? Or so we know, right? We're all aware of it, and this was coming to light, and you're literally watching someone who you know doesn't take responsibility for their behaviour or the behaviour that goes on in their company sit there and tell you, we try really hard for diversity. We're shocked to hear all these stories, you know, about all these stories of discrimination in the industry. We cannot believe it. I don't know. It's just always really weird to me that people just discovered racism like in May 2020. Like, are you all right? Like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? And like, they have done a lot of talks, and there's been a lot of like, oh, we're gonna do these quotas, we're gonna do that, we're gonna make all this program, we're gonna hire you. And like, honestly, I don't really have many, like, all my like friends I've made who are all like black or Asian or whatever are all like really working constantly at the moment. But I even worry that that's gonna like blow up in our faces, because like, I've already heard the complaints. I've already heard a bunch of straight white men being like, oh, you know, I'm just like the most hated person like right now, and like it's really hard. Like I've worked with lots of diverse shows, so I don't really see why we need to keep doing the positive discrimination. Isn't it time to like end that? Like, because you're sat there, so they think that you suddenly, it's all good, everything's all preppy. So I honestly think like that might turn back on us, and I'm ready for a fight. It's cool. But I do think it's like, it is really hard, and people are trying to make a difference. And like, big up like TV Mindset and all the people who like signed up on that, and big up like the BAME Task Force, is that what they're called? No, the Beta, they changed their name. The girls who wrote the letter, and like Black in TV, which lots of people following and pretending that they're like, oh well, I had no idea. So people say things like this. It was you, Lucy, you said it. No, I don't know why I said her name's Lucy. I don't know who Lucy is. But I do think, I don't know, there's obviously no advice I can give to tackling racism, except for, so as I said, all the Black and brown people, all those diverse people that I mentioned several times in this video, right? All of those people, you're working now, yeah? People want you, right? They want you in those seats. They want you in those rooms, yeah? When you hire me, when you hire Satema, you're hiring someone who is Black and is not afraid to say that. You're also hiring someone who isn't afraid to ask questions, or question why we're doing things like that, or question language, or question like how we're portraying people, and be like, are you sure that's okay? Do you not think the community would be offended by that? Do you not think like, I was like, I don't know, we can Google it, or we can ask someone like, or I don't know if we're supposed to call people with epilepsy epileptics anymore. I just think that's a bit dated. Like, don't be afraid to be loud. Like, I think that was really the problem before. Like, people were hiring us, and then you're in these rooms, and then they just think they can say anything because you're there. No. I'm not a diversity hire. I'm like, you've hired someone for a reason, and like act on that reason and be as present as humanly possible, because that's all you can really do. And you know what? If they have a problem with you, tell the press. Everyone's on our side at the moment. Snitch! I'm joking. I don't know. But like, just don't go quietly. Don't go down quietly. I don't know what great advice that is, but like, at the moment, we're okay, aren't we? So I can release this video and I won't get in any trouble with giving that advice. But for real, like, any job I work on, I'm always like really vocal, and I try and like use my life knowledge of being a Black working class woman in London who has like been around different communities and likes to learn about different communities as well. I use that in my work, and you should too. Whatever your background is, you should use that. You could be like an upper class, like third or second generation Black woman in this country or whatever, and you should use that, and you should be like, well, actually, why don't we tell these stories, and why don't we talk about that? And I'm really sick of everyone, that sort of narrative. That you have so much power and grace, and that's what we should think about. And everyone has that as well. I know we touched on mental health as well, and like, obviously being a situation where you think that microaggressions are happening towards you and you can't actually say anything because no one else because no one else understands, that can have a massive effect on mental health. So everyone should try and do that, and just make the absolute most of it. And don't forget to like talk on your friends, and like join groups. I think for me, what helped, especially during lockdown and when everyone was talking about these things, was knowing that I wasn't the only person who understood this, and that I could have conversations with people and like be quite positive. And if we've worked with people who we know are nasty characters, we can say to several other people, don't go there. We are powerful within ourselves, you know what I mean? As I said, we can use nepotism now, so we can also use our own blacklist. You get me? You know, that diverse blacklist. Be like, no, do not go there. She is not a fan of people like you. That one, she thinks all Muslims are terrorists. Stay away. You know, we can do that. So I think we can use that power, and that's it. That has been the freelancing, the goody bad and the hookali. Yeah, it's been all right. I hope people have learnt things from here. I know there's been a lot of like rambling, but I just always want to be honest about the industry. And as I've said, if you want any other advice, if you're ever curious about joining our industry, you know, I'm joking, please come. if you're ever curious about joining and that's why you're watching these, that's great. And like, please, absolutely fire away at questions. You can drop us an email, you can comment on our things. I always reply. It's my thing, it's my niche. Satema, she replies quickly, answers the phone after one ring. But yeah, I hope everyone is good. I hope everyone enjoyed these videos. I hope everyone keeps watching. Thank you. God bless you all. Happy hump day. Don't worry about the cold. I heard the rain's gonna stop tomorrow.